Hey rhythm guitar rockers, this is Mark Turco from rhythmguitarlessons.net. In this video, I will give you some tips on how to integrate your rhythm skills together so that your overall guitar playing will sound awesome. First, I'm going to explain to you what most guitar players do not do when integrating rhythm skills. Then I'm going to give you the tips. So the first tip is easy. Most guitar players think they don't need to do it, but they're wrong. The second tip makes you pay attention to details. So I will give you an example of what type of detail you should be paying attention to. And then the third tip is also very obvious, but nobody wants to do it. So here's what most guitar players don't do when they're trying to integrate different rhythm skills. They don't break down into smaller tasks what exactly needs to happen in order for them to transition from one technique to another. So let's say you just are looking to go from strumming to arpeggiating chords. Most people just try to barrel right through it and not take the time and break down into smaller, tiny pieces what exactly needs to happen. So the first tip is pretty simple. You're going to separate what your right hand does from what your left hand does. So if I were to be going from a strumming pattern then to a picking pattern on two different chords, I need to be sure that my picking pattern is going to be starting on the exact string that I need it to be. Let's say that we're going to be playing a C major chord. And we're going to be coming from strumming an E minor chord. Well, you need to make sure that your picking hand is very, very accurate, so we could do that looking at our right hand. So all I need to do, I'm not going to use my left hand at all. I'm just going to strum all 6 strings. Then I'm going to stop the strings from ringing and just play the A string, because that's what this hand needs to do when I'm transitioning from an E minor chord to picking a C major chord. So without using my fretting hand, I'm going to strum all 6 strings, and then I'm going to simply just play the A string. That's the level of detail that you need to get into in order to be able to integrate skills well. So the second thing I want to talk about is it has to do with your fretting hand. And you need to pay attention to where your thumb or your wrist is when you're playing something in isolation. So for example, if I'm playing a bar chord on the 7th fret, my wrist is in a certain position. When I play a D chord, D major chord here, okay, my wrist comes out like this in order to get my fingers up and coming straight down on the strings. Integrating these two things together requires 2 different ways in which I'm going to hold my wrist. So you need to be aware of those types of things. Okay, you need to start paying attention to the level of detail of what goes into executing your bar chord properly up here on the 7th fret, and then executing your first position open string chords down in this area of the neck. Your hand position might be different in order to execute these things properly. So the very last thing I want to talk about is going slow.
Going slow. Going slow.
If you're working on integrating 2 skills together, make sure that you go slow. If you go slow and you can do it perfectly, speeding up the integration of those 2 skills is going to happen much faster. You don't want it to be clunky from going from one skill to the next skill and just hope it gets better if you do it 1,000 times. If you do it perfectly 20, 30 times really slow, I'm going to guarantee that your progress is going to happen faster. It doesn't feel like it when you're going slow, but it will happen much, much faster. So just a quick recap. Remember, you want to break down things into smaller components. Know what your right hand is doing, know what your left hand is doing in isolation, and then put them together. You also want to pay attention to the way in which your body or your wrist or your arm or your thumb is placed when you're doing something perfectly in isolation, and you need to make sure that those other parts of your body other than your fingers are in the correct location to execute what you want to do as perfectly as possible. And then the third thing was slow down, learn it perfectly. When you're integrating skills, it will actually make you get up to speed much faster. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, and hit the notifications bell so you know when I make another video. Tell me in the comments what topics you want me to make videos on. Remember, always have fun with your guitar, and I'll see you next time. If you like that video, you're going to love this brand new e-guide that's totally free. The link is in this video's description, or you can go to rhythmguitarlessons.net/capital P, lowercase r, lowercase o.